Given the fact that I am no longer a fan of the MCU, I will say that Thunderbolts had always intrigued me since the first trailers. Something about it just felt different, mainly the way it looks. Yeah, it's not super colorful and has a darker toned grayish look, but it did not feel like the usual grey slop most Marvel films look like. Here, it felt different. And after hearing positive reviews, I think it's safe to say that I was quite excited for the film. Which is big because I don't care much for these movies anymore. You'd have to do something different and or innovative to get me excited. And after having seen it, I quite liked it. I don't think it's great or anywhere near the best films from the MCU, but it's most certainly a step in the right direction. From frame 1, you know that this is different. I felt an actual vision behind every frame of this thing. It doesn't feel like a product made for mass consumption. It felt like it was made by people who actually care. Yes, there are Marvel elements like the pathos and the humor and the banter, but here, rarely does it undercut the seriousness of a moment. It actually stems from the personalities of the characters and their clashing dynamics. And the writing does a solid job of pitting these characters against each other and putting them in situations where they have to work together to make it out. Here, we see how each character is different from the other, and yet how they still have to put aside their doubt and trust each other. As for what I was saying about how the movie looks, thankfully, what I felt from the trailers remained. The film actually looks like a movie and not slop made in a warehouse. Though the film is, to an extent, grey and dark, it feels more like an actual committed visual choice rather than a bland look. The cinematography and color grading complements the tone and themes the movie is aiming for. And while I'm not on the same page with everyone about this being a nuanced depiction of mental health and depression, it's still nice to see a Marvel movie actually tackle these themes with seriousness, without once shoving in their jokes or self referential remarks. It actually has something to say rather than being treated as a simple theme shoved inside a superhero movie. It talks about how all these characters are broken and flawed in some way, battling their deepest, darkest fears and insecurities on a daily basis, and how coming together makes them feel just a little less lonely. Now, while I also disagree with the popular opinion of the Thunderbolts feeling like a family, I do, however, think that they make for a solid little team. Guardians definitely takes the cup when it comes to a superhero team of a ragtag group of misfit losers that find family within their team. This isn't done too poorly either. But I think the biggest achievement of this film is making me curious to see where the characters go next. Where the initial phases of Marvel succeeded and the latest films have failed, isn't getting me excited to not just care, but see the future of these characters that I have grown to care about. With this film, I want to see them spend more time together and become an actual family that care about each other. Plus, the Sentry makes for a solid villain in this film. Again, I disagree that he is one of the best villains of the MCU. I have my personal favorites, but he makes for a perfect antagonist for this specific film because Bob's character and insecurities perfectly match the themes of this film, and he works as a foil for this specific superhero team. Bob reminds them of their failures and takes them back to some of their life's worst moments. But I love that despite all the actually neatly choreographed and shot action, what actually perseveres is the power of kindness and empathy. The film believes in getting to the core of the people who are broken and telling us that there is hope for the hopeless, that just through a sheer act of kindness, by holding their hand, by being next to them in their darkest of times, by giving them a hug they so desperately need, it's possible to break out of the void that we are stuck in. It's possible to combat the darkness within us without necessarily giving in to hate. But love is what will help us. I also love that through the void, the film not only just talks about depression, but also comments on how the film and characters are struggling to escape the void of the state of Marvel and superhero movies today. How they all feel like nothingness, devoid of soul and the human touch. It's a film that knows that it's losing its fans and feels like a desperate attempt to regain its fan base. While we still find ourselves caring for the older heroes, struggling to accept the new ones, even the world in the film finds themselves nostalgically remembering the Avengers while struggling to accept these newer heroes, which is interesting because it feels meta in that regard. The film addresses our very own concerns and bakes it into the narrative of the film. But despite all that, the film feels like it has a beating heart. And the last time I felt that was in Guardians Volume 3. So yeah, it's been a long while. But still, the film feels earnest. There's even some actual good filmmaking that doesn't just feel like standard coverage. There's a whole mind bending sequence here that actually felt exciting to watch. It reminded me heavily of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. And the reason I think it mainly works is because it all feels tangible. Almost everything is shot on location. The places feel lived in, and the characters feel like they are actually there. Action sequences are beautifully choreographed, and the film has actual practical stunts. The images don't feel weightless, the characters don't look like they're floating on screen. I believe what I'm seeing on screen. I am allowed to be moved by the images. And while the film, yes, has its faults, like not focusing enough on the other characters as much as I would have liked them to, I mean, Yelena is the only one that actually feels fleshed out, and the film feels like it's missing a second act. We immediately get to the climax, and in terms of its pacing, it does feel a little odd. But despite these hiccups, the film actually works. My favorite aspect of the film is finally getting to see a comic book movie where the superheroes actually save civilians. It's so rare that we see them save people. Nowadays, where these movies have either, world or universe ending stakes, we never get to see who these heroes are protecting. But it felt like such a breath of fresh air to see it in a superhero film, to see them save regular folk and be appreciated for it. I never expected, out of all the films coming from the MCU, that Thunderbolts would be a surprise hit. It's easily their best since Guardians 3, and it's honestly refreshing to see a Marvel movie that actually looks and feels like a movie. And while that does sound like the most basic thing to judge a movie on, and I will admit that the standard here is pretty low, amidst all that, I had a solid time at the movies. And you know what? Maybe that's good enough. Thank you so much for watching. Comment down below your thoughts on Thunderbolts, whether you liked it or not. Like, share, subscribe, support the channel. You know what to do. And until next time, I will see you later. Bye bye.